All right. Hello, everyone. I am Rosalind Brown of Your Wealth Guidance, where we provide tools for Black women to reach financial independence on your own terms. Most importantly, on your own terms. I want to thank you all for being with me today. Bear with me because I can't find my glasses, so I'm going to be squinting a little bit, but that's okay. Still drop your comments, drop your information in the chat, and I'm going to lean in real close and read everything that you got. And so today we've talked about real estate in a number of different ways. And real estate is one of those ways that you can make passive income. And child, sometimes it ain't quite so passive. And we want to talk about like all the different house. So a lot of people are like, one, I don't know if I want to be a landlord because I can't afford to buy a house. Maybe people are like, I don't want to be a landlord because of all the work and effort, or I can't afford to, or all these kind of things. And so there's a number of different options that are out there opposed to the traditional, find somebody, sign a 12-month lease, all of those kind of things. So we have Nathan Turner with us today. He is based out of Houston, Texas. He initially planned for a career in nursing, then he switched to business and later dropped out of college altogether and started his own business. He later tried network marketing and found that that wasn't a good fit for him. Real estate was his next venture where he worked finding buyers of distressed properties as a wholesaler. And we've touched on this a little bit. We might have to circle around, get some more information on that one. But after he and his wife were laid off, they found an opportunity cleaning short-term rentals. And I love this because if you go look through a number of the videos, people are like, I got laid off then. And so where we are in the market, some people are worried about what's going to happen with their job.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's like the push. Like sometimes that is the next step for you. And so just them starting off cleaning these short-term rentals really gave them access to information. And with that, they launched their Airbnb properties using the arbitrage method, meaning they didn't purchase these properties, they don't own them. And they acquired their first property in 2021 and didn't make any money initially. So don't be thinking y'all gonna get rich quick this time.
That's true.
Just a few months later, they made their first $1,000 profit. And that's when they knew they figured out the formula. Today, they have 25 units and make over six figures a year with a goal of 100 units. Somebody say, what? So to enhance their income, they also have a cleaning and management company. And I think it really just kind of goes hand in hand because as we talk a little bit more about just Airbnb in general and the process or short-term rentals, not necessarily Airbnb, because there's definitely other platforms and so forth out there. But Nathan, tell us a little bit about, what should people be doing if they're going to get started? If they say, this sounds good, how should I start?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first, I appreciate you for having me today, and looking forward to just going through everything, going through the questions. But I'd say, like, really, the first way, if you're like looking to get started, and I guess it kind of with the question, it just depends like where you're at, whether you have like financing available or cash available, or maybe you're just you don't really have that at your hands right away. I feel like there's two different ways you can kind of go about it. But I think really everybody should start off by maybe seeing how you can get hands-on with the business. That was kind of the approach that we took as far as like, offering cleaning services. When we seen that somebody was looking for a cleaner, and then from there, we kind of started building that relationship with somebody who was already in the business, and they kind of just started like, walking us through like how they do things, like, and really not intentionally. It's just, they were just excited about doing the business, and they were just telling us about like what they're doing, how they got started. And, kind of from there, we just kind of was just like soaking up the knowledge, while we was like, cleaning and like learning the processes that they had in place in their business, not knowing that eventually like we would like have our own like business as well. So like a lot of things that we kind of like learned then, I see that we kind of implement now too. So I would definitely say like, if you want to get into it, maybe just try to find a hands-on opportunity where you can get into it. Or if you do have the cash and you're ready to go, just start off with one unit and then just kind of start working out from there.
I think that's a good point. Now, a lot of people are like, now, how did you go from one in 2021 and now we're not even all the way through 23 and you have 25? How did you go about acquiring these properties?
Yeah, so Our first property, we actually like acquired like with our own money. So I was doing wholesaling, so I had some excess capital that I had to work with, and basically, I was like, we just need to go ahead and just put this to work instead of like holding on to it, because like one thing for me, I was like, I don't want to lose this money. I just want to keep holding on to it. So, but I was like, let's go ahead and just like dive into it. So we probably spent probably about four to 5,000 to get started with our first unit. And from there, we just kind of like took the profit that we was earning, and we just kind of started saving it up. But we were trying to like get more units, and it was just like this is kind of a tall task, like to add more units, because like every unit's going to run you roughly about 4 to 5,000. Could be more depending on like the type of furnishing that you're going to be doing. But that's when we started learning about like business credit, and that's really what's been like a huge key to our success in growing units is just utilizing like credit cards, and then also too like just raising capital from other people as well.
I love that. And so the first property you purchased, is that right?
Oh no, so it was an arbitrage, but we just used our own money that we had. So the first one was like no credit or anything like that. It was just money that I already had on hand. So we actually don't own any of our properties though.
So you go and you find a property. How do you go about saying, okay, I don't want to buy your property. I just want to use it to make money?
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about that process?
So pretty much it's kind of similar to just like your normal process if you're going to like rent out an apartment or like in a house or something like that. Us in particular, we just have strictly apartments. So, we'll go into like your usual websites like Zillow or Hotpads or like Zomper or even on Facebook in the marketplace area, you can see people that are like renting their apartments out or houses. And pretty much we'll just reach out to them, letting them know to see like, do they do like corporate leases? And then if so, if they say yes, then from there, we'll just let them know like, hey, the type of business that we're running here is we're going to be utilizing it for short-term rentals, and we'll be like operating, doing Airbnb or VRBO. You will get a lot of no's, but when you get that yes, I mean, it's go time.
Now, are there particular questions that they're asking? So is it just, do you have an LLC, or are they saying, do you have experience? Are they asking you to like guarantee the rent, those kind of things? What does that look like?
Yeah, so and I think this just depends on different buildings. I've seen that your smaller mom and pop landlords, depending on how many units you're taking to as well. So like maybe if they have like a duplex or a triplex or something like that, they may want to see, oh, can you personal guarantee it as well? Add yourself on there and make sure that you can be approved for it as well too. And then I've seen like with the bigger buildings, when you want to try to start doing corporate leases, they kind of want to see that you have like a proven track record of, not necessarily like in the business, but more so that you actually have like business credit. So they want to see that you actually have some trade lines, and some of them even want to see that you've even been a year or two, been in business for a year or two before they kind of like start giving you units. But honestly, I found that like once you start picking up units, you kind of just tell them that you already experienced and you got these units, and a lot of times you can kind of go from there. So sometimes we skip over the whole entire process just by talking about like we already have a business and like what we're already doing, and then like talking to our other landlords that we already use.
And then are you finding any issues? Because we know legislation has changed in this city versus that city and so forth. Are you finding or showing any difficulty with the changes in legislation in different areas?
Not necessarily. So I know Houston in general doesn't have any regulations, but where we're from back in Kentucky, I know they have like a little bit of like legislation saying that you have to be like registered with the city, and you just kind of like you just comply with that. And honestly, having regulation is actually a good thing, because it kind of regulates the supply that you have in the market. And then also too, like, cause like in Houston, there's no regulation. So it's like anybody named mama can open up here basically. So we got an issue here in Houston where it's oversaturated, because there's like, I think like 10,000 units here or something like that. It's some crazy large number. So like,
wow.
Yeah, really having regulation is actually a good thing. But I haven't really found much of an issue with it. I think really most of the regulation has been more so towards like not wanting people to have Airbnbs within residential neighborhoods, because they kind of want to keep the neighborhoods like, for family purposes and residential versus the feeling of like, I guess, turning it over into hotels is what people always say. So,
And so, are there places, or are you concentrated in one particular area or city or state?
no, so I'm in three different cities right now. So I'm in Houston, and then I'm back at home in Kentucky, and then I'm also in Iowa as well.
Oh, wow. Now, how did you pick? You said you're, of course, home, so
Mhm.
that's easy.
Right.
But like, how did you pick Iowa?
I know, so that sounds funny. So there's another guy. He was actually he's got probably like 200 units, and I know people always say like when you're in school, like don't copy off of other people and stuff like that. But it's weird because in the game of business, it's like if you see somebody already has like proven results, why would you not want to try to follow that same track record? So, I kind of did my own research first, and I looked up there and I seen that they had kind of like low demand as far as like I'm sorry, low like places for like people to stay at, like even like hotels in general. And from there, they also have like a good demand for travel. So I figured it would be a good place to just try it out. And honestly, so far it's been working out pretty well. It's actually probably one of our best performing cities.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Would have never thought about that one.
Now, don't get me wrong, I probably won't be going up there often, but it's still one of our best cities though. But
And that's a good question, in terms of like how hands-on is this? So a lot of people are saying, I don't want to be a landlord with people like calling me and saying my toilet isn't working. And especially with like the turnover in short term, obviously it's even more people to call you and say,
right.
I don't know how to turn on light, or whatever it is. Um, so what do you say to people that are like, I don't want the headache. I don't want too much work. How do they make this a passive type opportunity? Or is that even
Right.
possible?
I mean, I think it is possible. So I mean, really, right now, currently, like me and my wife, on average, we probably work maybe 5 to 10 hours a week. So it's really not too bad. I would just say really just having good systems in place. You're going to need like a guest communications team, somebody that's going to follow up with the guest all the time. And then the next part is like you just need to have a good cleaning team. And also too, like, eventually once you get, more units, you can kind of hire a cleaning manager, or if you choose to just have like a really good, reliable like cleaning company that they're like really on top of things for you. They're letting you know if like, hey, we're at the unit and we're cleaning and something's broke. They just kind of like just really being transparent with you and like letting you know what's going on. Like I just found that like when you got all the pieces in place and like everybody's having that constant communication, that everything runs pretty smoothly. So I would say it's gonna everything anything you're gonna do is gonna be like some type of hard. It's just you just gotta choose like what you want to do. So
Now, Tanya asks, and this kind of feeds into what you were just talking about. How do you select a good company to manage and clean in between rentals? And then how do you know like what's a good price point too?
gotcha. Okay. So I guess it just really just depends on like the size of the unit, and this kind of varies from state to state. So I would say in Houston we have like way more control over the operation here because like like I said, like not only do we have like our own units, but we have our own cleaning company too. So our cleaning company kind of cleans other people's like Airbnbs as well too. So we have our own like kind of internal staff here. But if you're not like going to be doing so much of that and more so like with other cleaning company, something that we did when we were first going up to Iowa is we had like 2 or 3 different cleaning companies come in at once, and they would clean different units for us, and we would just kind of see who performed the best, and then we would just kind of like go from there and see who we would go with. And then from there, I mean, you're gonna have like issues at some point, like as far as like maybe somebody left something behind. That's just human nature. But like we would just kind of like just monitor that, and like as long as we're not getting like consistent complaints like nonstop, we would stay with them. But also too, like if it seems like it's just too much workload on one company, we would also like move it to another company too as well. But I guess as far as like pricing goes, I'd say like a one bed, you shouldn't be paying no more than like maybe $70 to $80 for a one bed. That's an apartment, so like one bed apartment, and then like 2 bed apartment. I'd say probably no more than like 100 to 120, and then like a 3 bed, no more than like maybe 120 to 150. But it just really depends though, because if they're doing a whole lot for you, of course you got to compensate them too. So because some people will be like cleaning for you, they'll do the laundry, and they'll also go to the store and get all your supplies and stuff for you too. So it just really depends what type of roles that you put on them.
And then I guess some people are thinking, when we think about Airbnb or we think about short-term rentals in general, a lot of people think about like the long checklist of what the hosts are saying. You got to wash all the dishes, take the trash out, this kind of thing. Do you have those kind of rules to make it easier for your cleaners?
Well, so I did it at first. Honestly, I was like, when you guys are about to leave, throw the dishes in the dishwasher, take all the sheets off the bed, put them in the washer and dryer and stuff like that. But I started to kind of find out that, even though you put it there, a lot of people don't even do it. And then even the people that do see it and don't do it, we started getting the bad reviews about that. So I was just like, we actually ended up taking that out of our checkout instructions for guests. And now all we just tell our guests now is just check around, make sure that you grab all your belongings. And after that, just make sure that you leave the keys or however they had to enter the unit, because every unit is different. And then just lock up the unit and have a safe drive home. We just kind of keep it real short and sweet to them now. And honestly, I haven't really found a big difference for our cleaning crew. It usually doesn't take no more longer to clean than it did before. So, and I just found it's better to do that and still have a happy guest that's not upset about that. So, because most guests are already upset when they see the cleaning fee. When they have to pay for it,
what am I paying for?
Yeah.
Dirty guests are dirty guests. It really don't matter. If they dirty, they just
yeah.
dirty. Now, this is one thing I looked up and you shared this. This is your Airbnb stats in 2022. So, of course, you can go find him on Instagram, Nate B. Turner on Instagram. So he gave us his numbers. I always like to say numbers because people are like, all right, but how much?
Right.
And I thought this was real because, like I said, this ain't you gonna get rich next month.
Yeah.
So you said January you made $1,100. This is 2022. February $900. So folks like, dang, all this work for $900. And so March 1894, April 2538, in May 616. So that's even less than a month before.
Yeah, it's going down.
388. You like, hold up. Hold up. But then June, let me say June one more time. June 388, July 13,336. So almost $13,000 more than you made in the previous month. And then August 19,000, September 21,000, October 32,000, November 30,000, and December 42,000. Now, what the heck happened between June and July?
Yeah. So going from that December, going into I guess kind of going into that new year, that was our first unit that we had. And well, I guess I'll tell you a quick story about that. So we actually ended up losing our first unit. So we kind of went through a realtor, because you can do that too as well. A lot of realtors that help people find rental places. But we explained the whole situation. It was hey, we're looking for an apartment to do Airbnb out of. That's the main thing. Just make sure that they're okay with us doing Airbnb. So she came across the place, and we didn't do any of the communication with the owners. So we thought everything was good to go. So we set up shop, got our Airbnb up and running, and we were good to go for a couple months. And then that's when we got hit with, you're not allowed to do Airbnb here. So that's when I was like, oh, the realtor said we was good to go. And for some reason, that realtor, she went MIA, she disappeared on us. So, but I'm not the type to blame it on nobody, because at the end of the day, I should have still did my part and followed through with that. But basically, we kind of worked on that with the landlord to where we would just kind of phase out, and we would be out, by, I believe it was by May or something like that. So we had already had those bookings set out further. So I just kind of just blocked out the days that weren't there. And this is messed up. I don't tell nobody to do this, but I already had those days in there, and I wasn't going to cancel because I was I'm trying to get my points in the last I can. So those were just kind of the last little bookings that we had on there. And then that's when we had already been looking around, because the options was to either move the furniture into storage, or we're just going to move into other units. And then that's when I actually came across a triplex building. And then that's when we kind of got our first investor, and he actually invested with us to be able to help us, get this first units to furnish the other two, because we already had the furniture for the first one. And we kind of moved into that triplex building. And then from there, we added on a fourplex building. And then I think it was an eightplex after that, and then 2 more units. And then we just started adding on a whole lot of units. So we started working basically. We started working.
Now, you mentioned getting a investor. What does that look like? So is the investor more of like someone who owns property and they're like, all right, I own this triplex, whatever, and I am either going to take a portion of your profits for letting you use my property? Like, what does an investor look like? Or are they just giving you money?
Yeah, so this is more so, I guess, like a private money lender, I guess you could say. We kind of just connected in a Facebook group because I still do real estate on the side. So like I'm usually always like marketing to people as far as like people that want to get like better returns on their money for like flipping houses and stuff. So I just so happened to come across him, and we were talking, and I was like, I really don't have any deals for you to flip right now to invest in, but I was like, I got some Airbnb units that you can invest in. You can get a pretty decent return on. So we started talking back and forth, and then he was interested in it. So we just kind of like, struck up a deal, and then wrote up our paperwork. I believe like our terms was like he would get like a 30% return back. But that was fine with me because the numbers still made sense for me. But also too at the same time, like, as a happy investor, he's gonna make back 30%, within a year. That's not really that's really good, to be honest. So that's kind of how that went. And honestly, we still work together to this day. So
now, one thing you talked about is the first one. So the first one you lost, you were, leaning on this realtor to do the due diligence and so forth. And so for people who are just getting into it, what are going to be some of the questions that they need to ask, some of the information that they need to know, things about the market? Like, how do they make sure that they don't make that same mistake?
So I would say, now I wouldn't like say don't use a realtor, because some realtors actually do this. Like that's like strictly what they do, finding units for you. So like I would say if you are going to use like a realtor, then just kind of like follow up behind them. Like I know they get paid from a commission. You may feel like you're paying them to like do the process, but at the end of the day, the main thing you want in this business is like longevity. So it's like you don't want to make no sense just to get in the door, and then like what happened to us a couple months later, you can get booted out. So like I would still just follow back up behind the realtor and make sure that you like talk with whoever the actual person that you're going to be management that you're going to be signing the lease with. And then also something too that we do now, just from that experience, which I think is still good practice to do in general, is have the building sign your operator agreement. The operator agreement is going to basically lay out the terms and conditions of you operating in the building. Whether you're going to have to change out the smart locks, put smart locks on the door, that you're going to be telling them that you're going to be having guests in the unit, like they're either going to be from like Airbnb, VRBO, or it might even be traveling nurses too. And also it just really just lays out everything like a business to business relationship. So I would think that's like really important to do, and that's something that I tell everybody now when they're trying to get into it. Just make sure you have them sign that operator agreement. But I would say other than that, really just make sure that you get that in writing. Like even just having word of mouth isn't good enough. You gotta have that in writing that it's okay for you operating there.
Yeah, I think that's a really big one. Now, the operating agreement, that's something that you have or something that they would have. Like, how do you generate something like that?
Yeah, so that's something that I have, and I kind of just like the first one. I just kind of like drafted up a little Word document, but since I got a little bit more professional with it, and I kind of like got it like looked over from an attorney and kind of got it reworded. But it's really just like something that I kind of like wrote up, and then it was something that I just sent over via DocuSign to the buildings now that we like participate in, and they kind of just look it over and then they sign off on it, and it's just something that we have in our back pocket. So in case of maybe a building switches over to new property management, or maybe they sell something we have, so that like the new person doesn't come in, they're like, yeah, you gotta go. I'm like, nah, this is the agreement we got for you.
Now, one other question, and Conaxis, I thought this was a good question, and you touched on this. How do you create systems so that Airbnb doesn't become an extra job? And I think that's probably one of the bigger things, because people like, you hear all the stories, you hear, I think you hear like horror stories on both sides, horror stories in terms of being a host, horror stories in terms of being a guest. So how do you create the system where somebody can be working 5 to 10 hours a week?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say like just really going into it with a mindset of like you're gonna run this like a business and not just like a side hustle. Because I always hear so many people say like I'm gonna get started with Airbnb just to make a little money on the side. or this, that, and the third. But I think like if you kind of go into it with that mindset and like try to figure out like how do you need to make this like run as a business. So it's like trying to figure out what type of people that you need on your team. So like like I think I said a little bit earlier, but like you need like a guest communications team. That's gonna be like the number one thing. People's gonna be asking like, how do I get in? What's the Wi-Fi? Where's this, and that? So that's like one of the main things is having that guest communication team, because I feel like that's probably what's gonna take up most of your time is like talking back and forth with guests, and then also even talking with customer service. And then also too like what type of software that you need. Like there's a lot of different softwares out there for like pricing, revenue management that you can use. There's also something called a channel manager, which basically will like monitor all your listings that you have and make sure you're not getting double bookings. That if you're listed on multiple platforms, because you're most likely going to be on like Airbnb, VRBO, and maybe have your own direct booking site as well. So you can get that software and make sure you're not getting those double bookings on there. So that's going to help you out a whole lot, so that you're not just sitting in front of your computer all day, making sure that let me block this day off on this calendar. Let me go do this and that. That gets hard once you start getting at like 10, 20, 15 units or so, just kind of going back and forth. And then I would say, setting up like automated messages. That's probably one of the biggest things, because like you're going to have to send the same messages over and over, like check-in instructions, the Wi-Fi instructions. And they even got so many things out now, especially with the AI, where they can like automatically respond back to some of the questions that they ask.
Yeah.
That are like very common questions that people ask all the time. So, I mean, that's just a few different things and like what you can kind of do to like set up those systems so that you're not just like just stuck on your phone all day long.
I think that is probably the biggest, or probably one of the reasons why people are like, one, I don't know how to get a property, but two, how much effort, energy, and work to kind of put together that entire team. Now, tell me about maybe like your most memorable guest or two. Like, do you have a story of like, okay, this didn't go well?
Memorable guest. I'm trying to think. Well, I guess this actually happened here to me here pretty recent. So I think it's cool just to let y'all know, like, I still make mistakes even now. But like here recently, I guess we went on like vacation with my parents, and basically I was on a flight, so I didn't like see what was going on. But one of the guests was supposed to be checking out of the unit, and basically he said he wanted the night before. He said he wanted to extend out his stay, and when a guest wants to extend out their stay, they have to like it'll send like a payment request for them to send over their payment, but it gives them like 12 or 24 hours or something like that. And basically it was going to overlap into the next guest. And for some reason he just didn't like put his payment information in. And like while I was on a flight, my team was just sending me all these messages like, hey, this person's not got out the property yet. He's still staying at the property. And I guess he told our cleaner when they arrived, because the cleaners get messages too, like if a guest extends out longer or something like that. Well, they never got that, so it was still on their schedule for the day to clean. So when they got there, he told them that he was supposed to check out the next day, but we already had another guest that was scheduled to come that day as well. So he just didn't check out at all. And then when I finally like seen what was going on, and we just kept reaching out to him, and he just was not answering the phone at all. And I wasn't there because usually if I was there, I could have got like a security team to kind of just get him out of the property, but I just couldn't get on top of it. So we ended up having to cancel the other guest that was coming for the day, because she actually already arrived, and she said she walked in, and the guy was just sitting there just staring at her, like they were just staring at each other. So it was just an ugly situation. So he ended up leaving the next day, but like when he left, he just like left the door wide open. Like he didn't close it or anything, just left it wide open. But like thankfully, like nothing was stolen or anything like that. But it was just a crazy situation. So wow, that's just like the first story I could think of like that happened here recently. But I mean, there's something that happens like every couple of weeks or so. Like it's I like that part of that. It's kind of unpredictable. Something's always happening.
Yeah, the getting people out, the overstaying, that I'll never get over that. It's like, really?
Yeah. Like, man.
Now, you mentioned like, thank goodness nothing was missing. Some people are like, how do you get all this stuff? Like people have a whole house. Like, where do you get, 2 beds and a sofa and, TVs and all those kind of things? Like, how much stuff should you be buying? Where are you getting it? Like, how do you provide a home that people can walk into without spending? It's, I remember I bought my
Yeah.
first house and I ain't had but a room full of
Right.
furniture.
What you said? Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Well, I would say like, well, for one, I know my wife kind of does like most of the decorating and stuff like that. So I mean, if you leave it up to me, I mean, it ain't gonna look too good. But she
And
she
IKEA
does her thing though.
futon.
Yeah, she definitely doctors it up for sure. But like, I would say like, don't go overboard. Like, don't be somebody that's gonna go to Ashley Furniture and buy the bedroom set, and spend 3-4 thousand. You're only gonna be able to furnish one room, and you haven't even got to the rest of the room. So like, honestly, I probably wouldn't even go to Ashley Furniture. To be honest, I would just kind of like just a lot of these warehouses that we kind of use. Like, I know it's kind of like different for every city, but like a lot of these warehouses that do get like furniture that's like left over from Ashley and they get it in their place. Usually they got it for discount for like maybe 60-70% off. We found like really good deals with that. I know we get like a lot of furniture from like Wayfair or who's the other one? Wayfair or like Amazon. There's a lot of good deals that we get off of there as well too. And I would say too, don't be scared to check out some of the thrift stores. You can get some like really good pictures from thrift stores. Honestly, a lot of them are like brand new, not even touched. Because we got like a whole like 4-piece set of like pictures that we put in like 4 different units, and I think the market price on it was like 350 or something like that, and we got like $20.
Oh,
So
wow.
like, this finding good deals, and then like, Facebook Marketplace. It's been several times that we bought, furniture from somebody else, another operator who might be shutting down, and they just needed to get their stuff out of the unit because the building was going to throw it away, and we got it at a discount. So like, sometimes we might get it for like, 1,000, 1,500 or something like that. So, just kind of just like look around, especially if you got the time to like kind of look around and find the best deals that you can possibly.
And I think that's a good point. So if you're getting started and you're thinking, okay, what are some of the steps? It might be that you start collecting some things in your
Mhm.
own house and you're like, all right, let me see if I can pick up this and this and this. And then you have like a little bit of storage of stuff. And then you look for that, like, oh, somebody saying, can you come pick up this whole apartment for $1,000? And you're like, a whole
Yeah,
apartment?
yeah, that's a good
Let me
deal.
get that U-Haul truck.
Yeah, that's all you gotta do. You just gotta get down to it.
So like if people were going to get started, who should they have? So you mentioned the cleaner. So they need to find them a cleaner. They got to find them some stuff. They got to find a place. Who else should be on the team? Who else do they need to be like searching out?
Yeah. So I would say like, well, even really with our first unit, and this is more so just because we had the time to do it. Really, we did everything at first. For the first, I would say probably first 3 to 4 units that we had, we were doing like all the cleaning, all the decorating. If there was like some type of like handyman maintenance issue that popped up, I'd run over there and I try to like, do what I could and to fix it. For the most part, I never had like some crazy issue where I couldn't fix it myself. But even though I know you do get like maintenance with the buildings, usually just to kind of preserve their relationship with the building, like if somebody does something crazy, like I don't know, punch a hole in the wall or something like that, I wouldn't really like bother the builder when doing something like that because like they're gonna look on you a different type of way. So I would just try to like get your own maintenance person. So like that's somebody that you definitely want to have on your team too. Eventually, it's like your own maintenance person. But we were doing all the work ourselves initially. But I would say definitely you need a cleaner. You need a guest communications team. You need to get a maintenance person. And then also too, just try to have like you don't necessarily really need this on the team, but it's just like just kind of have it in your back pocket, like maybe like a furniture place that that you can get furniture, pretty quickly, like on short notice. Because maybe your team might have just came in and they noticed that the bed is broken, so you might need to like have somebody who can quickly like run over there and deliver a new bed for you and like take the old one out for you. So that's just kind of somebody that we found like help on the team. But like honestly, I feel like if you got those few things, you'll be pretty set to go just with those few people that you need on the team.
Now, guest communications. So, are you not communicating? So, when people reach out and they say, my code isn't working, or, I can't find the key, or the light won't turn on, or whatever, where are you finding these guest communication people and how do you train them in terms
Mhm.
of, don't tell them that they can stay another night or whatever?
Right. Yeah. So our guest communication team actually consists of virtual assistants, And with our virtual assistants, one thing that most of them all have in common is they've all either worked at Airbnb or VRBO before, or they've worked for like another company that does this as well too. So a lot of them are already kind of familiar with the field that they're in like this business. But the only thing I'm really training them on is our systems that we have in place and like what they should be doing on a day-to-day basis. So that's really what our guest communication team consists of.
And so you're using Airbnb, you mentioned VRBO.
Mhm.
What other platforms should people be listing or utilizing?
Yeah. So I think you should use it. Well, depending on like the type of property that you have, if you feel like it's a place that is, I guess people will want to come there for photo shoots. Maybe look into using Peerspace. Peerspace is a great option too as well. I don't think it's available in every city. I think it's available in mostly all major cities though. But people can kind of like rent your property out for a few hours. Maybe they just want to just host a meeting at your property, like with a group of people, or maybe they just want to do like a quick baby shower or a photo shoot. It's usually just for like small little functions and get-togethers. That's just kind of another way that you can kind of like fill some days in. Another one too, get your own direct booking site. Don't just rely like strictly on Airbnb and VRBO, because sometimes it be kind of dead. So maybe take the data that you're getting off of like Airbnb from the other guests, because you get their emails and you get their phone numbers. Take that data and kind of put your own email list together and try to like push them over to your direct booking site. And then also the other one too is Furnish Finder. And Furnish Finder is just kind of for people who are looking for like longer term stays. So usually people that are on Furnish Finder are usually like traveling nurses, or maybe like insurance adjusters, or maybe families that are like displaced from their housing because of maybe some type of natural disaster, or maybe they have like some type of like flooding that happened at their home or something like that, and they just need like furnished housing in the meantime until their house is like ready to go for them to move back in. So that is kind of like a few different places, and of course word of mouth too. You can post it on Facebook and stuff like that too.
So in terms of like Airbnbs and so forth, are you creating like these whole experiences? I know some are like bare bones, you got a place to stay, and then some are like pools with waterfalls and a
Yeah.
butler. Like, where do you fall?
I would say I'm more so, I wouldn't say bare bones, but like it's not no like crazy nice experience either. As far as like, well, I mean, like not a crazy nice experience as far as in like, I would have stayed in a tree house or something like that. I guess ours is more so just catered to your everyday traveler who's like looking for a place to stay at. Maybe they're just in town for a couple of days, or maybe they're just in town for the weekend. I feel like that's where our place kind of like caters towards. I guess the more so thing that I feel like what helps our units stand out is we try to make them as comfy as possible. Like I said, like you just said a minute ago, like some people they throw a bed in there, one random picture, and a couch, and maybe 2 forks and spoons in there or something like that, and that's it. Like
That's it.
So, but I would say it's definitely more so your everyday traveler type of place is what our units kind of cater towards.
So that's perfect. That at least lets you know that you don't have to be, because I think when you look and people are talking about places, they're looking at the most glamorous. And you're
Yeah.
like, I can't put together the most.
You don't have to do that. Like, and then like all these like big themes and stuff like that. Like none of our units have like any type of themes, like no type of Marvel theme or like Disney theme or gaming theme or anything like that. Now you can do that, but I just feel like when you kind of do the theme, you can only have that particular person that likes that theme that's looking for that. Whereas when it's just like a general open, feel, it's for everybody to book. And usually with those theme like units, it usually costs more. And honestly, right now, it seems like most people are kind of wanting to lean towards the more affordable units right now. So,
And that's a good point you make, because I've seen a lot of the postings where people are like, Airbnb is doomed, all this kind of stuff.
yeah.
Are you seeing a decrease in bookings overall? Are you seeing maybe more where you're having like gaps in the calendar? What are you seeing in terms of that trend?
Yeah, so like I guess for me, I don't really buy much into the supposed Airbnb bust that people kind of talk about. But I just think it just depends. And most people like when they're talking about the Airbnb bust, a lot of people are kind of comparing it to people that got started like in the pandemic, especially here in Texas, because Texas was like wide open during the pandemic. So, people were basically just like printing money down here, because that was the only place people could go. It was either Texas or Florida. So, if you just had a basic bed in there, a couch, people were going to stay there because people just wanted to get away from their city. They just wanted to go travel somewhere. And, that was the only places open because hotels weren't open. So it was really just Airbnb at that point. But I would just say, like, to be honest, revenue is down a little bit on some of the units. But, I feel like that's just something in general that most people, like, kind of are going to face in any business that they're in. But me in particular, because the timing that I started, honestly, I'm really kind of like seeing an increase in revenue for us because we were kind of started on the tail end of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really get to see the big boom like that everybody else was making. And over this, like, I didn't really see that. So like for me, I feel like business has stayed steady. If not, it's gotten better for me just because, we've added more units on. We've also like kind of since I've been in business for like over a year now, we've also kind of like cut off some units that weren't producing as like they should be. And we just been able to like hone in on the ones that are producing better and are doing better for us. So I would say for the most part, we're staying pretty steady around like 80% occupancy. So, and this what that means is like usually about like every weekend is pretty much booked and probably like 2 to 3 weeks of the month is going to be fully booked as well. We might have like 3 or 4 days that aren't being booked during the month, but that's okay with me.
And I think that's a really good point in terms of like, okay, are they performing or not? And so you said it was time to get rid of a few that were underperforming. How do you know what is underperforming? Like what numbers are you running?
Yeah, so basically at first, when I just had one unit, I wasn't like really tracking any numbers at all. Like I was just like, I know the rent is $1,200 and we made $1,000 this month. But also we was doing the cleaning too. So, and we were doing all the communications at that point. So I didn't really track anything at that point. But I guess it was when, because we were actually over 25. We had over 30, we had like 36 or 37 units actually. But I was just picking up units just because somebody said, oh, yes, you can get it. And I was like, give it to me, give it to me. So like, but I wasn't actually like really sitting there and like analyzing every single deal as much as I am now. Because like, it sounds weird, but it's like, we actually are more profitable now with less units than when we were at the 36. Because like, when we had 36, we had some, like, you might have like 5 or 8 units that we seen when I started like tracking our numbers and like actually started like making the P&Ls and stuff like that, and start seeing that some of these units aren't even making the rent. So like the units that are profiting, we're having to take money from those and move those over to those to kind of cover those. So when I started like kind of like really like honing in on our numbers and like just really tracking that stuff, that's when I was able to like figure out, all right, we need to take care and move these units off and maybe start growing more units within this other area that we see that, things are doing better in.
I like this. And this is a good question. I know a lot of people are concerned about this, and we touched on it a little bit, but one extra. So Samry says she was wondering, how are you navigating all the short-term lease laws being enacted around the United States? And then, so I know you have the operating agreement too. Are you putting anything in your documents that if legislation changes in the city that you're in, are they going to let you out of the lease? Are they going to change the terms? Like, how are you protecting yourself or kind of navigating that field as things keep changing?
Oh, definitely. So we do kind of have that clause in the lease where it's like, and this is, I feel like this is very, very rare if this was to happen. If like a city just says we're just flat out banning all Airbnbs in the city, then we're just absolutely not going to like allow you to do it. Then, at that point, I kind of got that clause in there where we can kind of like terminate the lease because, our lease is like, dependent upon that at that point. But I haven't really found like any type of like strong bans like that. And I think to my knowledge, I only know like two cities that are like really like that. But I know we was kind of talking about it a little bit earlier, but it seems like most of the bans now are more so towards not really banning. It's more so just saying, hey, you need to get your units registered with the city so that we know that you're actually operating and doing Airbnb. So, it's not really so much of people are trying to tell you not to do Airbnb. It's more so like, we just need to make sure that you're registering. And then from the city's perspective, at a certain point when you're registered, I mean, after so many people are registered, then they kind of like trying to cut it off, for that from that area. Because I think the main thing that most places are trying to do is they don't want neighborhoods to start feeling like they're, hotels and vacation homes and not just meant for single families homes and like residential areas for families to live in. But I feel like for the most part, and kind of in the field that I'm in, which I just do strictly mostly apartments, I don't really have that type of like issue. I feel like that's more so something aimed towards like houses.
So definitely. So that's one point. So that's your safety net of you're already in this rental type location. So it's not going to be the same as if they change zoning and say
Right.
this zone doesn't allow Airbnbs. Is it also a thing to just make sure that you don't have, if your plan is to have 20, to make sure that all 20 aren't in Houston, Texas, or Atlanta or LA or whatever it is? Like, is it beneficial to make sure that you're kind of diversifying the locations?
I think so. Just in the aspect of, every area performs different. So like I would say like Houston is kind of like I guess Houston is just kind of like my steady. It's just a steady cow, I guess you could say. Like it's just steady all year round because it's like steady travel. People are always coming to Houston, all throughout the year. Whereas like a place like Iowa, it's got like a lot of traffic coming in the summertime and like a lot of different weird, crazy events going on in the summer. So like you'll see that huge spike and peak up there in the summer times, where it's like when it starts to get to your colder months, it kind of slows down a little bit. So it's like you'll have some units that are kind of like balance out other areas as well. Whereas like versus kind of like I said, like in Iowa, Kentucky's the same way. You'll get those huge peaks in the summer, and during the year it'll kind of even out. So I feel like it all kind of like helps each other out, where you have different areas that are getting huge seasons, high seasons, and then others are getting like their low seasons.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and just to try and figure out. And so, as you're looking at from even the financial perspective, so you went back and you said this one isn't performing. Is it just kind of a net over net? So we brought in this, and the expenses are here, or should it be things like your cleaning cost should be no more than 10%, and then your integration cost should be no more than 5? Is there a breakdown of kind of where those numbers should lay?
I can't. I guess I can't really say like a breakdown on the cleaning because like you might have some months where a unit might have had like 10 stays in a month, so like you're gonna have 10 cleans, whereas another month it could have been like a guest that booked for the entire month, so you didn't have to have the cleaning crew coming at all. So it's like you actually saved money, but on the other hand, it's like you probably made a little bit less because those multiple stays kind of adds up because you got your cleaning fee added in there too. So you might actually make a little bit more then. So it just really just depends. But I guess it just all kind of just goes back to like when I'm like looking at my P&L, the main thing is that I'm looking at that I'm staying within a certain profit margin range. So for me, I like to stay around 700 to 1,000 per unit. And really, if I'm kind of getting under that, especially like if my summer month, if I'm seeing that I'm only making maybe I'm only making 500 profit on a unit in the summer, then that's when I'm already feeling like I'm probably going to be in trouble, because when wintertime comes around, it's going to be way slower then at that point. So, I might already be trying to figure out how I'm going to pivot from there. So, I mean, that's just really kind of like my general rule. I just kind of see like, am I staying within my profit margin range that I like to be within, which is usually that 700 to 1,000 plus.
And how are you promoting? So you said you're on Airbnb, VRBO, the Furnish Finder, you have the private website and so forth too. What are you using to promote yourself? Is it just, people will find you, or is there?
I guess like promoting for like finding units or like
Yeah.
promoting okay. I feel like promoting for finding units has really been honestly like word of mouth. I feel like once you start working with somebody, like your mom and pop landlords, if maybe you took over their triplex building and they're like, hey, it's been smooth selling working with Nathan. We haven't had any issues, rents on time all the time. I know you might be struggling trying to find tenants, but hey, he might be the best option for you coming up. So then I might see a random email come in from somebody saying like, hey, I know you work with somebody already. We would love to work with you. Or the other one that I kind of been liking more here recently is if you start working with the bigger property management companies, most of them actually manage like in other cities as well too. So they'll start saying, "Hey, we took a chance. It's been working with him. He said he's interested in your city. Maybe you guys should try to connect. Let me try to connect you guys together." So really now it's been more so like a word of mouth type of thing where they've been like kind of connecting us together. But even still, the main thing is, I'll probably reach out and send I might do it like once a week. I might stop and send out like 100 messages like every single day, like once a week. I mean, every few days, and just keep sending out messages to buildings and then see what type of responses that we're getting back. Like I said, of course, we get a lot of no's, but then you get some people that say, "Hey, I might be interested in hearing you out." So then that's when we just hop on a phone call and we just kind of go from there and then see what we can work out from there.
So that could be kind of a starting point, is for someone to say, I'm going to reach out to, 3 or 4 apartment complexes every single day and see who says yes. And then they got to figure out, if they get a yes, or if they get a let's hop on a call, then they're like, oh gosh, let me find a way to prepare from there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I tell most people, like, if you're sending like 100 emails out a day to like different buildings, like for 2 weeks straight, I mean, you're going to get a yes. So.
And so, if people are like, okay, you made this sound a lot less stressful than it probably could have been, especially as people are thinking about either they've been a landlord in the past, and anybody who's been a landlord in the past, they probably have like at least a story or two of like,
definitely.
And so people are like, I don't want to get back into real estate. I don't want to do it again. And how is this going to be less stress? You have the formula. So once again, when we went back to it, you were making less than $400 one month, and then you were making over $13,000 the next month. So you really put those systems in place and like figured out how you can acquire properties, how you can make money, how you can manage your expenses, and so forth. And so tell us about how they can work through or work with and get that information, that knowledge, and that system that you've created.
Yeah, definitely. So here recently, and it really kind of just originated from like a lot of people reaching out. So I just kind of like just sat down and kind of like put it all together. But here recently, I kind of put together like what I call like a 5-figure a month blueprint to like the short-term rental business, and I kind of call it the STR Takeoff Academy. So I didn't really want to just name it Airbnb because that's not really like the main box that we're just in. Because like we do have like other stays, direct bookings like outside of Airbnb as well. But basically with STR Takeoff Academy, it's going to show you everything from like A to Z. From starting your business, how to like actually set up your LLC, how to actually find business funding, and getting set up with like business credit cards, and setting up your DMV number, everything from that nature to the actual day-to-day operations of like finding a unit, and then how to operate every single day with your team, finding virtual assistants that have the experience already, and ultimately from there scaling to continue adding more units to your portfolio. And with the end goal of you being able to make 10,000 plus a month.
And I like that, because I was looking through kind of what the curriculum looks like. So it's starting you off and making sure that you're actually a business entity. You're getting that EIN, you're getting your Dun and Bradstreet, and your bank account as well. And so does this help you, especially when it comes tax time? Are you looking for people who specialize in helping people who work in short-term real estate?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So, like, that would just like, help you out a whole lot more. Like people that are like kind of already like familiar with like doing taxes in that area to help out. Because for the most part, I mean, you should be able to like write off a whole lot, just like with everything that you're doing, all the furniture that you're buying, like there's so many different things that you're gonna be able to write off with it. So like, I definitely think that'd be huge. Like having somebody that's already familiar with it too.
I think that's perfect. It's just kind of looking through and seeing, okay, one, they can start with the academy and get a lot of that information just to get started. Do you provide things like scripting for reaching out to those complexes? So hey, it's me, I never did this before, but
yeah, so I got like it's a really long script that I got, but like for different scenarios. But I provide a script for you to kind of like follow as your guideline of like what to say to buildings. or maybe you're somebody who might be nervous and not like to get on phone calls. I even got like a little script for you to just like copy and paste the emails. You can close deals like that too, to send in emails. You don't have to like strictly talk to them on the phone. So I got that, and then also have like basically what we was talking about earlier, an agreement for you that you can use for the buildings, for you to be able to operate in the buildings. And even too, like maybe you don't want to just strictly get straight into Airbnb. I do have like a co-hosting agreement that we use for like our management when we're doing management for the properties. And then I give you guys like a checklist too that you can give to your cleaners, just to kind of get you guys going, like what your cleaners should be able to do. So I do get a couple like downloadable content that you can use like for contracts and agreements as well.
I think that's good stuff. I am excited because folks are like, I don't know if I want to get into real estate. And this is a great way because it's not a 30-year mortgage commitment
Yeah,
to
not at
pay
all.
somebody's mortgage. You're signing what, a year lease with someone. So
Yeah, we'll do a year lease, and like I said, that's probably the best thing about the arbitrage, where it's like maybe things don't work out with a property, or it's not making the money that you thought it would. You kind of can just go to the landlord and say, hey, things aren't working well. Maybe you just finish out the lease, or maybe you just say, hey, I'll just pay for an additional month, and we can both like walk our separate ways. Whereas, like you said, with the house, it might take you a little bit, it might take you a few months to sell it, so. I think that's just like one of the nice added benefits of like doing arbitrage is you're not like really tied down to it. So
I love it. And so many people, so somebody, so Samri also says, how do you finance the furnishings in your units?
yeah, so well, I guess we'll get a few things. I know one thing we only really kind of talked about was for one, I had somebody that kind of like with our first unit when we were going. Well, I'm sorry, second one, we had a lender, a private money lender, who like lent to us. But other than that, if not that, if you have like decent credit, then like I said, within the course, I kind of tell people about how you can obtain like different business credit cards that you can use. Most of these credit cards get like 0% APR for the first 12 months. So basically, you got the first 12 months to just pay it back off, and no interest at all. So that's really the main thing that I try to do is have it all paid off like pretty quickly within the first 2-3 months or so. Because we try to ask for free concessions. So we try to ask the buildings, can we get like free rent for a month or two? And then, with those first 2 months, we just use the revenue from those months, slap it on the credit cards, and then now the credit card is back free, ready to go again. But if not that, maybe you don't have like the best of credit. You can also take advantage of some of these same as cash 90-day furniture places where they offer it through like a SEMA, or I think Snap Finance is another one too. Those are good options too as well that you can use for like financing the furniture. So it's a lot of different ways that you can kind of do it. So.
And I know you talked about the thrift store and things like
Oh
glass,
yeah, thrift store too. Yeah, don't
coffee
feel like you can't
mugs.
go to Ashley and ball out at Ashley and get the most top tier, most expensive stuff. Like, try to find the best deals out there. Don't break the bank trying to furnish the place, because somebody will break something at some point. So
It's definitely bound to
mhm.
happen. Well, I'm excited. I hope that somebody is going to, one, click on the link, check out the information, especially because you're giving out templates. And so if you do nothing else but take the templates and decide to like, I'm gonna send it to the first 100 apartment complexes I can find and see who said
Yeah.
yes, that's an option. And if you get one yes, that can pay for the course itself.
Oh yeah, definitely.
One person who says yes, you copy and paste that, you copy and paste the information for the agreements that he has, and then you set up and you get going. And you're basically, you give it a year. If it don't work out,
Yeah.
all right, change course, change things.
Mhm.
So I want to thank you so much for being with us today. I mean, so much good information, so much in terms of just thinking about things differently. And so just to be able to take that information, do things differently, and get to your goals. So Nathan, thank you so much. Tell your wife
Definitely.
hello on the financial independence journey. And we are loving and following you along the way. Check him out again on his Instagram page, Nate B. Turner on IG. So until next time, have a great night.
Thank you.